Okay, this should be a quick one, but I just felt like it. There are a bunch of new Mega Evolutions in Pokemon Legends ZA. People have feelings about them, including me. I'm people. So, might as well just put some thoughts out there. I have done one thing a little bit different, though. I will say I am tiering the Pokemon on design, just how much I like them sort of at face value. I am not at all thinking about competitive play. I haven't thought about competitive ZA really yet, except that to say that maybe I should do it at some point. Can't say the interest has really been there so far. So, mostly design. If there's anything else that captures my interest about a Mega, I guess I'll talk about it. And I have pulled up all of their Pokedex entries on Bulbapedia to look at as we go through this, because there is, in particular, one notable case where the Pokedex entry definitely changed my thinking some about the design. First thing I'm going to do right off the bat, I'm not going to include the Mega Raichu forms. Maybe when Mega Dimension comes out, and I imagine we probably get more new Megas than just these, I'll come back and do another of these. We'll see. But they're not in the game yet, and I think being in the game makes a real difference, right? Like, I think I didn't want to do something like this tier list until I had seen all of the new Megas in-game, because looking at the official art or a model that's been released or something really only does so much for you. I find that my opinion of a Pokemon can sometimes change quite a bit when I actually see it in game, see how it moves, see how it interacts with the environment that it's designed for. So I don't think it's fair to assess the Mega Raichu forms just yet. That said, I kind of like Mega Raichu Y at face value, not that fond of X. But we move on now. Okay, Mega Clefable. First impression, I like it. Clefable has always been this sort of mysterious fairy creature. There have been storylines in the anime and so on about Clefable trying to return to outer space. It's always had those kind of small little wings that they never did very much with in its design. Having it be able to manipulate gravity according to its Pokedex entry and float around with much bigger wings, with sort of a more, what a lot of people would recognize as a more sort of conventional fairy-like design, I think it's pretty solid. The Pokedex entry is where I get the gravity thing from. It flies by using the power of moonlight to control gravity within a radius of over 32 feet around it. The one thing that's kind of odd to me about Mega Clefable is that they made it a flying type. Yes, it has much bigger wings, and it does float around in the air, but it does float around, it doesn't fly. And I don't know, it lands kind of weirdly to me, making Clefable a flying type. I'm not sure I can really explain why. I guess its whole thing is that it's just this mysterious, mystical space creature that was a normal type with implied something more to it for so long, and then, of course, a fairy type once that came into existence. Becoming a flying type feels kind of, I don't know, weirdly mundane for what this is. Like, it doesn't just grow bigger wings and flap around on them, and there's not, I know it learns Air Slash now, but there's not a whole lot else to be said about its control over air. I guess you could just say bigger wings equals flying type. I mean, to some extent, the flying type has always been the type for Pokemon that have a flying creature's anatomy. But, and I do like seeing some of these Megas change types as well. And I think overall Game Freak did a pretty good job of having only a handful of those, but still having some. It lands a little weirdly with me. All that said, I'm still going to put Clefable in the A tier. I think they did. I think where Mega Evolution often has the purpose of sort of doubling down on a Pokemon's design qualities, exaggerating it to do something new and interesting, I think they did a pretty solid job with Clefable. Mega Victory Bell is next. The volume of this Pokemon's acid has increased due to Mega Evolution, filling its mouth. If it's not careful, the acid will overflow and spill out. This is, I think, a very fun take. I mean, I thought this, when it was revealed before release, a very fun take on Mega Evolution as this doubling down and exaggerating a Pokemon's design qualities. Mega Victory Bell goes so far with such a massive power-up that it actually has to tie its mouth shut, or else it won't be able to contain its own power. It's not like the most groundbreaking design ever, but it is a lot of fun. I'm not going to put it lower than B tier. I could even go A tier, I think. So I will. I'm going to err on the side of going A tier, because I like a lot of these designs. Go figure. Now we get to the big one. Mega Starmie. Now, I actually want to get on my soapbox a little bit, because Mega Starmie, I think, goes to something that I've been talking about for a little while. I've talked about it on the channel before. I am really down on leak culture in Pokemon right now. I really don't like that it's a thing. And one of the reasons for that I mean, people can read leaks if they want, but I do genuinely think some of them have a worse experience for it, and I think I've had a worse experience for it sometimes, and I don't want to see leaks, and I don't like that all of these new megas were partially leaked for me on Instagram in a post with no warnings or anything. I definitely don't like the culture where people just talk openly about leaks because they assume that everyone else is reading them anyway. But the reason I'm especially unhappy with leak culture right now is that sometimes some of these new Pokemon and forms and whatnot, I've noticed, don't land properly when we first see them outside of the intended context. My go-to example for that is Blood Moon Ursaluna. It was leaked before the Teal Mask came out that Ursaluna was getting a new form called the Blood Moon form. That information got out there with no context. I saw people getting mad online that they couldn't evolve their shiny Teddy Ursa into Blood Moon Ursaluna because for some reason you can't evolve one. How dumb is that? Lazy Game Freak or something. And then, of course, you actually play the event in-game, and it's because Blood Moon Ursaluna is basically a Pokemon cryptid. It's this mysterious, unique creature that's a lot of fun to go find. Although, I'll be honest, I think I would have had more fun with it had I not known about it and seen it before I played through that event. I think just seeing it before the intended encounter in the Dark Forest did some harm to my enjoyment. And also, I even opted out of the no context, why can't I evolve one stuff. I say that when I talk about Mega Starmie because I saw leaks against my will about Mega Starmie just having longer legs, and I thought that sounded ridiculous. And even though I don't believe that Game Freak are lazy when it comes to creature design, it sounded pretty lazy to me. That one specifically. I saw leaked images. I didn't like the look of it. A lot of people didn't like the look of it. For some reason, this one specific Mega is the one that was spoiled for me over and over and over and over before I saw it in-game. Even though there's so many really solid Mega designs in this game that I think are worth celebrating, people were more interested in talking about Mega Starmie at length with no spoiler warnings. I'm not sure why. Once I actually saw it in-game, though, I started to warm to it very, very quickly. The way it moves is a lot of fun. The sort of human-like quality to it kind of came across more just seeing its stance in the game and so on. And then I read its Pokedex entry, and that was the big thing. Its movements have become more human-like. Whether it's simply trying to communicate or wants to supplant humanity is unclear, which is, number one, a hilarious Pokedex entry. You're a Pokemon trainer, Mega Evolving your Pokemon to get a power boost in battle, and oops, you might have unleashed a dangerous creature that we don't understand. But also, I thought just making Mega Starmie's legs longer was not really all that interesting considering the design concepts behind the original Starmie. It actually fits perfectly. What are the core design concepts behind Starmie? Other than it being a starfish, it has a prominent gem in the middle of its body, but also it's mysterious, inscrutable, probably of alien origin. It has Pokedex entries going all the way back to the early games, but it's sending signals into space and no one understanding why. And while most Pokemon are sort of your standard creature designs that they want the player to be able to connect with, they have recognizable faces and familiar body types, and very often there's some kind of personality expressed through the design. Starmie, literally classified as the mysterious Pokemon, is intentionally inscrutable. It has no face, it has no emotions that you can read, and that's part of the mystery around the Pokemon. Part of what it's about. It's also the starfish alien trope. So having that starfish alien then do something more like imitating humanity, with the Pokedex even explicitly calling out that we don't know why it's doing that, and it might or might not be sinister, actually perfectly fits what Starmie's design is about. It's very cool. It's one of the funniest Pokedex entries I've ever seen. In the end, Starmie's legs did just get longer. I feel like there's some room to criticize that, and maybe there's more they could have done with it, but I don't know. I feel like for what they were going for, it actually lands extremely well. It is just the same creature, but with more human-like proportions. So the question is, honestly, do I put it in S tier or A? I think I'm going to say A, because in the end, I saw it in my game in my first playthrough, and I was like, its legs are just longer, like people said, what's that about? But I don't know, back then I probably would have put it in D, and it is rapidly rocketing up my tier list. I could get it to S by the end of talking this through. Mega Dragonite. Mega Evolution has excessively powered up this Pokemon's feelings of kindness. It finishes off its opponents with mercy in its heart. Dragonite is in a little bit of a tricky spot design-wise because it's the original fully evolved Dragon-type Pokemon. It has been portrayed as a terrifying, badass creature, and also as the kind, gentle giant that nonetheless is powerful enough to crush you. Like, you can find evidence for both in the series, but you look back at its earlier Pokedex entries, this creature is kind, it rescues sailors lost at sea. People talk about it like it's an angel that they encountered. It's a pretty consistent theme of a lot of Dragonite's flavor. I talked about Mega Dragonite when it was first revealed. People were very vocally complaining about it on the internet, sometimes for reasons I understood and sometimes for reasons that felt silly to me. I saw a lot of fan designs for Mega Dragonite that I thought looked worse than the official one that people were posting around saying, this is what we could have had. I really liked Mega Dragonite. I did when it was revealed. I still do now. Somehow it just works. I saw it in the trailer and I thought, yeah, that design just fits. And I think a lot of it is Dragonite has that flavor of being a kind sea dragon that appears to lost sailors and sort of like a guardian angel helps them find rescue. And by giving Dragonite those giant wings, but also by making its proportions kind of odd and uncanny, right? The wings on the head, the massive tail, making it kind of an odd creature to look at, but also friendly and comforting. They did a really solid job of giving it kind of an angelic quality to its design, which I think fits very well with what Dragonite is about, and also is appropriate for a Pokemon at its power level, right? This creature looks to me like it has a kind of mysterious power that we don't fully understand, but can be very helpful to whatever our goals might be. I'm going to put it in A as well. I promise I'm not going to put everything in A, but yeah, really solid start for the Gen 1 new Megas. Mega Meganium, this one stings a little bit. I chose Chikorita in my game. I was hoping to see a little bit more from this, so I'm not going to lie. This Pokemon can fire a tremendously powerful Solar Beam from its 4 flowers. Another name for this is Mega Soul Cannon. I really don't like this dex entry. What are we doing with Mega Soul Cannon? What are we talking about? It's not good. It doesn't. Maybe there's something I'm missing, but it doesn't land with me, I'll say. And design-wise, Meganium goes from having 1 flower around its neck to 4 flowers around its neck. The design changes a little bit more than that. Like, its antennae get longer and curlier. It gets a little bit of foliage near its feet. Honestly, Mega Evolution always kind of has to thread the needle between changing the Pokemon design enough to be interesting and not changing it so much that it's not recognizably very clearly the same Pokemon anymore. There are some from Gen 6 that I think get that wrong in one direction or the other, but I'm pretty underwhelmed by Mega Meganium. It turning into a fairy type is nice. I'm going to go C tier. It did grow on me as I was using it in the game, and I noticed little nuances of its design over time here and there, but in the end, long neck creature with a flower around its neck just gets more flowers around the neck because the neck is long and there's room for them. I still think it's pretty underwhelming. Mega Feraligatr is actually the only one that I haven't seen in game since I chose Chikorita. Tawny used Mega Emboar. I have Mega Meganium. I have seen actually like video of how this thing moves, but I haven't seen it in my own playthrough, I should say. With its arms and hood-like fin, this Pokemon forms a gigantic set of jaws with a bite 10 times as powerful as Mega Feraligator's actual jaws. I thought it looked really silly at first glance, and I didn't think I was a fan, but the whole Totodile line has, for as long as it's existed, been all about chomping on things, using its jaws. The Pokedex entries talk about that all the time. I think doubling down so hard on that it has basically extra jaws created from the back ridges that Feraligatr has is pretty funny and a pretty solid job of the classic Mega Evolution concept of exaggerating what the Pokemon is already about. Overall, it looks silly at first, but I think in the end it does work for me. I'm not going to put it in A tier. Maybe I could. I'm going to say B. I think it's a solid one. Mega Skarmory. It flies faster than the speed of sound. After whipping up shockwaves to send enemies flying, it finishes them off with its talons. That Pokedex entry feels a little underwhelming to me. Like, faster than the speed of sound is supposed to seem impressive, but we've heard that about Pokemon that were not Mega Evolved for a long time. And otherwise, it just seems like a bigger, stronger Skarmory. I'm not super fond of this one, to be honest. They made Skarmory basically just is brighter and has way bigger talons. I mean, that's Mega Evolution, I guess, but it's kind of just visually loud and otherwise not super interesting on my screen. I thought it was kind of neat when I first saw Philippe use it against me, but I don't think it's holding up very well as I get used to it. Usually when I'm not sure about a new Pokemon design, I find that I like it more over time as I get used to it. That has certainly been the case with Mega Starmie, which I'm still thinking about moving up to S tier. But I think with Mega Skarmory, I saw it at first and thought, whoa, cool. And then actually the design changes were kind of shallow, and the more time I had to think about them, the less interested I was. So I could go C or D with this one. I think I'm going to say D. Which, honestly, I wasn't sure I'd put anything in D except one that's coming up in a little bit. Maybe I could move Skarmory up. This might be a little harsh, but this is what I'm thinking right now. Okay, Mega Frostlass. This Pokemon can use eerie, cold air imbued with ghost energy to freeze even insubstantial things such as flames or the wind. That's pretty cool. It's not an amazing, groundbreaking Pokedex entry, right? But I think it does two things really well. One, it enhances what Frostlass is already known for. Frostlass has always had Pokedex entries about freezing other Pokemon and keeping them in its lair. I think it draws from some kind of yokai. I don't know the details of that in those inspirations. And the Pokedex entry clearly communicates that it's the same creature still doing the same thing, but on a whole other level. Like, freezing flames is not something you would see a Frostlass do before. And the other thing this Pokedex entry accomplishes is that's just really cool. And of course it draws from all of Frostlass's identity, the inspiration behind it, I think, although I'm not very knowledgeable about that. The ice and ghost typing coming together to complement each other, using ghost energy to be able to freeze things like the wind. It's just a very cool image. It makes the Pokemon seem powerful in an appropriate way that suits its design origins. I really like Frostlass as a Pokemon design, even without not understanding its inspirations super well. And they also did a really solid job of making it look bigger and more powerful, and still recognizably the same creature and all around awesome. I could go S tier with this one. Or I could go A. I think I'm going to go S. I think the Pokedex entry pushes it over the top for me. Mega Embor. The one that Tawny has in my playthrough file. Brandishing a blazing flame shaped like a serpentine spear, it rushes in to rescue its imperiled allies. This is not a super deep one. I don't have much to say along the lines of Starmie's design inspirations or Dragonite's. It's more of a Victory Bell, just very cool. Actually, no, Victory Bell is selling it short. It's just very cool. I mean, I know that it does double down some on what inspired Embor's design, but mostly this Mega just works really well for me because it looks awesome. And it is recognizably the same Pokemon doubling down on what it is. Embor with more flames, and the spear fits really nicely. It's a simple one, at least in my understanding of it, but it's very effective. I'm putting it in S tier. Excadrill. This Pokemon brings its arms and head together to form a streamlined shape and spins at high speeds. It can destroy anything. So it's Excadrill, but bigger, right? Excadrill already does that, but now it has bigger and more powerful drills. It's not groundbreaking stuff, but it's pretty solid. It makes perfect sense for this Pokemon. It can destroy anything is always a really funny sentence to have in a Pokedex entry. I don't know if that appears in any other Pokedex entry, but there are sentences like it for some Pokemon. No ambiguity, no nuance. It can destroy anything. I'm going to give it a little bit of a plus for that, but overall, I think it's just a solid but unremarkable Mega design. I'll put it in B tier. Scolipede. Its deadly venom gives off a faint glow. The venom affects Scolipede's mind, honing its viciousness. I don't get a ton out of that Pokedex entry. There's not, like, okay, it got more powerful, but also mind altered by its own poison. That's nothing too unusual. Nothing groundbreaking there. It looks neat. It's got that Whirlipede-like armor, doing the Mega Evolution thing that you sometimes see, where some aspects of the pre-evolution come back out and enhance the evolved form. I don't have much to say about Mega Scolipede. I think it's, not one of the great ones for this generation, but I think it's really solid. I'm just gonna put it in B. Scrafty. It's another pretty solid one. Mega Evolution has caused Scrafty's shed skin to turn white, growing tough and supple. Of course, this Pokemon is still as feisty as ever. Scrafty has, of course, always been a lizard that has skin shedding from its body, as lizards do, combined with the punk aesthetic with the shed skin looking like sagging pants. This just doubles down on that. Because it's white, it now looks like it's put on as clothing skin that it already shed off, and it has more of a full outfit now. It has the hoodie and everything. Again, I don't have a ton to say about this one. I don't think there's a lot of depth to it. There may be some things I don't know. But it's pretty simple and effective, does a solid job of building on what the Pokemon already is. Very like Mega Excadrill, I think, is how my opinion of this one ends up being, and I will put it in the B tier as well. Electros. It now generates 10 times the electricity it did before Mega Evolving. It discharges this electricity from its false electric, which are made of mucus. I do want to go back to Skarmory for a second, because this is the kind of contrast that I was talking about. There's nothing in the Skarmory Dex entry like it now generates 10 times the electricity it did before Mega Evolving. There's no equivalent to tell us that Skarmory is massively powered up, except that it flies faster than sound or whatever, but I mean, Pokemon has had that kind of thing before. That's why I found that one kind of unremarkable. Electros, I mean, it's kind of cheap to just say, oh, it's 10 times more powerful than it was before. There's not a whole lot to that, but it does get the message across. Having sort of false heads made of mucus, false creatures made of mucus, is ridiculous, but it fits the Pokemon. I know a lot of people like the plane-like design. You can see the positive and negative symbols for this electricity-generating creature. I think this one's probably just going to be B tier as well. It's definitely not one of my favorites this gen. It's another one that's just kind of alright, solid, it's decent. If I sort the tiers, which I haven't decided whether I'll do, I might drop it to the very low end of B. But it's alright. Chandelure. One of its eyes is a window linking our world with the afterlife. This Pokemon draws in hatred and converts it into power. The Dex entry actually doesn't do that much for me. Chandelure is a Pokemon. Ghost is my favorite type. I like creepy, eerie, spoopy ghosts in Pokemon. Chandelure is a Pokemon design that I've always liked quite a lot. I honestly think I like this Mega more when I just take it at face value, and it's very simple, just doubling down on the chandelier thing, looking like a bigger, more elaborate chandelier like you would find in a fancy mansion. That's kind of all I need from this. The window to the afterlife thing is an extra layer on top that I don't know that it really adds much for me. You know, it's just kind of there. I don't know that the Pokemon's flavor is really doing a whole lot with it. It's a ghost type. A lot of them have connections to the afterlife. So I don't get much out of that, but I don't need to. Even if this is a really straightforward way to double down on Chandelure's design and kind of an obvious way to enhance it, it just works really well for me because I really like that kind of Pokemon design. S tier. Chestnut. I accidentally closed the tab. Hang on 1 second. Okay, Chestnut. It has fortified armor and a will to defend at all costs. Both are absurdly strong. Pretty weak Dex entry. Like, it's just not interesting or well written. Both are absurdly strong. Okay. If I were judging these Pokemon on their Dex entries, Chestnut would probably be at the bottom of the list. But Chestnut is, of course, the warrior RPG trope, with Delphox being the mage and Greninja being the stealth guy. And I've never found base Chestnut super interesting, but I think Mega Chestnut does a lot to enhance it very well. It has that sort of armored warrior look to it coming through a bit more clearly than it does in its base design. It has those spiky things that it can use as axes. I think it looks awesome. I could go S tier with this, or I could go A. I'm just going to go ahead and say S. And then we go to Delphox next, and Delphox wields flaming branches to dazzle its opponents before incinerating them with a huge fireball. Doubles down really nicely on what Delphox is about, right? Delphox is, again, the mage of the RPG trio. It resembles a witch. It uses a branch that it sets on fire with its fire-based power. It looks like a magic wand. Mega Delphox wields more branches. Pretty straightforward. Doubles down on what it's already about. Uses its psychic powers to make them levitate. Pretty cool. And they're still on fire because of its fire powers. The witch inspiration also comes through in it riding an especially large branch, like a witch flying a broomstick, with the flame even looking like the tail of the broom. It just ties together everything that this Pokemon is about very, very nicely. The coloring shift is pretty solid as well for this more... Yeah, Delphox is already pretty clearly resembling a stereotypical witch, but I would say, yeah, it goes further with the Mega design, and it's kind of creative in a way that some of these are not necessarily. Like, I like Mega Excadrill. I like Mega Scrafty. Delphox has a little bit more creativity to it. It goes in the S tier. Mega Greninja, though. This Pokemon spins a giant shuriken at high speed to make it float, then clings to it upside down to catch opponents unawares. That's kind of neat. I don't know how stealthy you really are with a giant watery shuriken, but sure, you approach from above, some opponents might not see you. It's a neat idea. I have seen Mega Greninja criticized for not really doing anything with the Pokemon's design except the giant shuriken. I don't think that's entirely true. There's a bit of a coloring change that commits a little bit more to the ninja inspiration. It has obviously a different thing on its head and some shuriken symbols here that weren't there before. It's sort of like Mega Meganium in that there's one obvious exaggerated changed feature and then some other smaller things in its design that altogether I think do enough. And the giant water shuriken is maybe a little bit more interesting than Meganium just getting more flowers. My biggest problem, I'm not the biggest Greninja fan. I think it's just a solidly okay Pokemon design when it's marketed like it's one of the best ever. I've said many times my problem with it mainly is that they used its tongue as a scarf. I understand why they did that. It's a neat design idea. It also is just kind of gross, and I don't like it. And obviously Mega Greninja was never going to change that because it's one of Greninja's core design features. Take that away and you've lost a lot of what the Pokemon is. So I still have that same problem that I have with the base design. I think it's an okay Mega Evolution overall. The giant shuriken can look a little bit silly. I don't think it's quite as solid an enhancement as Chestnut's Axes or Delphox's Broom. I think this can go in the B tier. Where'd it go? There, B tier. Mega Pyroar. Okay. I might be missing some inspiration on this one. I know that Pyroar's main has a character in it that refers to fire or flames. I believe Mega Pyroar's has a different character represented in it. I'm not Japanese, maybe there's some nuance I'm missing. I also have not dug deep into its origins. Let's do the dex entry though. This Pokemon spews flames hotter than 18,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It swings around its grand blazing mane as it protects its allies. Okay, yeah, really hot flames. We've seen that in Pokemon before. It does have a grand blazing mane. It doesn't have a whole lot else that sets it apart from regular Pyroar. There may be some nuance I'm missing, but on what I know about this Pokemon right now, Pyroar just got a bigger mane. And probably the yellow part spells something different. When I saw it in-game, when I battled Grizel, I thought, oh, it just has a bigger mane. That's not much. I do unfortunately think, on what I know right now, this is the worst new Mega in ZA, and I'm putting it in the D tier. Mega Floette. It's kind of neat that Eternal Floette even gets a Mega. The game does not remotely try to explain how that ever happened. Although, maybe more on that in a sec. The Eternal Flower has absorbed all the energy from Mega Evolution. The flower now attacks enemies on its own. Absorbing all the energy from Mega Evolution lands a little bit weirdly, but of course it really only works in context. Mega Floette is very tied into the story of Legends ZA. And the story, I enjoy the story more for the character stuff than I do for the actual plot. The actual plot it's not awful, but there are some silly points to it for sure. And AZ just kind of out of nowhere starts talking about Mega Floette at one point, and then, okay, yeah, we need to use this to calm down this device, the second device that he made, apart from the ultimate weapon that none of us know about. There's a little bit more to it than that, right? Like, you can interpret Ange trying to protect Lumiose City and share life force with all there as an early expression of AZ's grief only 1,000 years after the ultimate weapon incident instead of 3,000, but it's not super fleshed out, and I'm still thinking it over. Recently, after finishing my own playthrough, it's landed a little bit weirdly with me so far. And Mega Floette is very tied into that story, so it's kind of hard to evaluate outside of that. I do like that the flower looks so much like the ultimate weapon. In hindsight, that would be because AZ modeled the ultimate weapon on Floette's flower in the lore, so that works and it makes sense. And Floette having the Light of Ruin as a move that it can use, and AZ's machines using an enhanced version. Also pretty solid. Makes you wonder what was happening 3,000 years ago. Like, could this Floette already Mega Evolve, and could it already use Light of Ruin back then? Which hints at some sort of deeper mysteries in the lore, which I think are kind of interesting. As an ordinary Pokemon design, in terms of just looking at the design and what I think about it, that's what I mean. Big flower, big power. Looks like the ultimate weapon. I like it. It's solid. A tier. Mega Malamar. It uses colorful lights to overwrite the personalities and memories of others and to control them. My friend Malamar obviously goes in the S tier. No questions asked. No, I'm kidding. But I do really like it. Malamar has always been about hypnotizing things. That's what his Pokedex entries and whatnot have talked about for a long time, using lights. With Mega Malamar, you can see how that's enhanced with the different colored tentacles swirling around and stuff. It has kind of like a stereotypical supervillain design. It's got that giant brain to drive home the enhanced psychic powers. I don't think it's actually S tier. I think it needs something a little bit more groundbreaking or just to really appeal to me specifically like Chandelure does to get there. But I think it's a solid A tier one for sure. Barbaracle. It uses its many arms to toy with its opponents. This keeps the head extremely busy. I was confused when I read that last part at first, but I think the idea is just like it has to control so many different individual limbs all at once. That's a lot of brain power and coordination that goes into that, which is kind of neat. It speaks to a way that Barbaracle has been enhanced by Mega Evolution. It does, of course, get a type change. It is, I think, the fourth and last one on this list that does, going from water and rock to rock and fighting. The water typing was kind of always only there because it's a barnacle. It's a water creature. It can justifiably use like Razor Shell. But enhancing its physical power and giving it almost twice as many limbs as a Machamp, and having it just wail on opponents with the fighting typing, pretty solid, I think. I have heard that there's been criticism of this one. I really like it. Barbaracle was a really weird, silly-looking Pokemon that landed kind of weirdly with a lot of players, including me. But I think it's to its benefit that they just go extra hard on that when they Mega Evolve it. Again, Mega Evolution is often at its best when it commits to just taking what the Pokemon's design is already about and going to extremes with it. And Barbaracle goes from just a weird-looking creature that I'm not all that interested in to a ridiculous-looking creature that is pretty funny, pretty entertaining. Enjoyed the heck out of facing it in one of the early Rogue Mega battles. I think Barbaracle can go in the A tier. Dragalge. It spits a liquid that causes the regenerative power of cells to run wild. The liquid is deadly poison to everything other than itself. I don't really know what they're cooking with that. I'm probably missing some design inspirations. Actually, let me scroll down on Bulbapedia. There could be something in the origin section. Mega Dragalge resembles multiple species of kelp. Okay. Its power to amplify cell regeneration implies that it's toxic is carcinogenic. This Pokemon causes cancer. Uh-oh. The carcinogenic properties of its toxins may reference the nature of seaweeds absorbing heavy metals from the ocean, or may serve as an inversion. Laminari's status of medical remedy. Okay. Wow, it causes cancer. I didn't see that coming. That makes it immediately a little bit more interesting, but I think it's just going to be a decent B-tier Mega Evolution. I don't have a lot to say about it. Probably the least out of all of these. Mega Hawlucha. Mega Evolution has pumped up all its muscles. Hawlucha flexes to show off its strength. Pretty boring, generic Pokedex entry. For a design that is cool to look at, but I find a little bit generic as well. They took the funny Wrestler Hawk and they made it bulkier and gave it a mask. It's not bad, but it's not a lot. I think I can just put it in the B tier and move on. Mega Zygarde. In response to people's emotions during an unprecedented crisis, Zygarde Mega evolves and calms the situation with its unmatched power. So that raises some interesting questions, right? Generation 6 never explained the origins of Mega Evolution. We were given two possibilities in the two sets of games in that generation. In X and Y, it's suggested that Mega Stones are rocks that were irradiated by the light of the ultimate weapon, and the energy flowing from that, and took on these strange new properties that can then be used to transform and enhance Pokemon. And in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, I don't remember exactly the details, but they're tied to space power, basically. That's why Rayquaza regains the ability to Mega Evolve after it eats a meteorite. It can Mega Evolve without a Mega Stone in the first place because it eats meteorites. And they contain whatever this mysterious power is. I guess what ties it all together is the life energy of Pokemon, which we're told in Gen 6 can be used as an energy source. It's what powers the ultimate weapon, and it's what Devon Corporation wants to use to stop the meteoroid in the Delta episode. Yeah, can be used as an energy source, and it is what powers Mega Evolution. Mega Evolution probably comes from the life energy of Pokemon, which is at least similar to some kind of mysterious space energy, space power. And of course, there have been lots of hints in various Pokemon media that Pokemon might be from space. not just Clefable and Starmie. Zygarde giving you a Pebble that turns into a Megastone, presumably knowing that this would happen if the right conditions were met. Raises some interesting questions about the origins of Mega Evolution. I have not quite finished my ZA playthrough as I'm recording this. I'm partway through the post-game, so I don't know if that will come up anymore. But I know, even though I haven't gotten there yet, I know that Lysander will liken Zygarde's new move, Nihilite, to Z moves. As if Zygarde took some inspiration or drew some power from its time in Alola. I sort of like the implication that Zygarde is able to build and assimilate. Obviously, Zygarde is a lot of cells coming together into one massive, powerful creature that's able to build and assimilate more powers as it's exposed to them. Zygarde still remains, even as it gets some expanded lore in ZA, a fairly mysterious Pokemon. And it's hard to say what the theoretical limit of its power might be, but seemingly creating a Megastone for itself when it finds the right trainer is pretty impressive stuff. And again, it makes me wonder about where Mega Floette came from and how that came to be a Pokemon that can Mega Evolve. Although, if the power of the ultimate weapon created a lot of the Megastones, maybe it's as simple as, you know, Floette was around at that time and it was affected. Maybe a pebble near it or something. In any case, Zygarde seemingly creating its own Megastone during the climax of Legends ZA is already such a cool and mysterious thing for a cool and mysterious legendary Pokemon. I like the design. It clearly, has taken some of the outer dragon scales part of its body and turned it into this giant cannon, because that is what's called for to get through the crisis at hand. Nihilite being, having a resemblance to Z moves, which again raises interesting questions about Zygarde assimilating powers that it encounters, but also is just exactly what's needed to shut down the Light of Ruin. And being able to hit fairy types, a dragon type attack that's so absurdly powerful that I think its description is like it defies the laws of nature or something, really feels like the sky is the limit for this Pokemon. It's here to protect the balance of the environment, and it will go to whatever lengths necessary, tap into whatever power is needed to make that happen. It really makes Zygarde even more mysterious and implicitly overwhelmingly powerful than it already was, and the cannon looks awesome. We can just go ahead and put this one in the A tier. Mega Drampa. Drampa's cells have been invigorated, allowing it to regain its youth. It manipulates the atmosphere to summon storms. I also noticed when I was scrolling through the Bulbapedia page that at the top, Drampa, when it Mega Evolves, goes from the placid Pokemon to the imposing Pokemon. So it goes from relaxed and calm to demonstrating its overwhelming power. I really like the implication that it's a tired old dragon, and Mega Evolving makes it not so tired, and this is what it was like in its prime, and it looks awesome. I'm going to say S tier. Maybe it should only be an A. It might be missing that little extra something that some of them have, but I don't know. I just really like it. And Phalanx. Mega Phalanx has taken on the ultimate battle formation, which can be achieved only if the troopers and the brass have the strongest of bonds. Absolutely perfect Mega design for this Pokemon. 10 out of 10. It's always been 6 creatures coordinating, working together to take on the opponent. And just as the Pokedex entry says, this is pretty much the ultimate kind of coordination they can do, coming together. It's funny, it also kind of reminds me of how the Zygarde cells come together into a stronger creature, or how, thematically paralleling Zygarde, the people of Lumiose City with their different goals and backgrounds come together as a unit to protect the city. Phalanx perfectly fits the themes of the game in that regard. It's the only Gen 8 Pokemon that gets a Mega in ZA, so the only one that has one at all, but it was a really honestly inspired choice by Game Freak, because considering how it fits the themes of the game so well, and this is sort of the perfect culmination of what Phalanx is about. It absolutely goes in the S tier. Poor middle Phalanx, though, struggling to hold up the big one. Now, I typically like tier lists because they don't ask me to rank the stuff in order. They just ask me to sort them into tiers, and that's an easier task. That said, if I were to take a quick stab at it right now, I think it comes across clearly. Phalanx is easily my favorite new Mega in ZA. Just probably one of the best, maybe the best execution of the Mega Evolution concept I've ever seen. I think for the rest of the S tier, I think Delphox is awesome. Delphox can go next. I don't feel that strongly about ranking these ones against each other after that. Drampa, now that I know a little bit more about its design inspiration, can maybe get the 3rd spot. Chandelure, Frostlass, Emboar, Chestnut, that's reasonable. In the A tier, I still think I could move Starmie up to S. It only suffers for just how little it changes in its design, but now that I understand what they were going for, it's such a good one. I really love it. I hope it's VGC legal fairly soon, and I can try to make something happen with it. I'm going to put Dragonite next. Dragonite has those mysterious, angelic, powerful qualities to it that I think set it apart a little bit from some of these that are just... I really like them, they're really cool. I don't feel too strongly about ranking these ones against each other. I think Malamar is really solid. Barbaracle is so funny. But I'll put Zygarde above Barbaracle. Floette and Clefable, I actually don't like that it turns into a flying type. I think that takes some of the weird mystical power out of it. So it can go here near the bottom of A tier. In the B tier, I think Feraligatr fits as the top of B. A lot of these are just, yeah, it makes sense. It's the same Pokemon but enhanced. And Feraligatr actually, it is that, but it also does something creative and interesting with it that could have justified a spot in the A tier maybe. A lot of these then otherwise are hard to rank against each other. I'll actually put Greninja here because it does something a little bit more creative and interesting than a lot of these. Alucha, the mask looks cool at least. And then I don't really have strong opinions between these. Dragalge looks neat. And then I think we could just do something like this. And that's pretty reasonable. These four were all kind of just like... well, especially these three. We're all kind of just like, yeah, it's the same thing, but more of it. It's pretty solid. It's B tier because it's not amazing, but it's pretty solid. Meganium ended up being the only thing in C tier. Unfortunate. I have liked it more over time as I've used it in the game, and then I think this is definitely the correct order for these two. I could even move Skarmory up to C and give Meganium some company. But these are the only two that I think are... Meganium I'm a little disappointed in. I think these are the only two that I think are just flat out kind of duds. But maybe there are some nuances in their designs that I'm missing, like I said. So far, though, I am not seeing it. Mega Raichu, both forms, not ranked yet. And if there's anything new coming in Mega Dimension beyond these, which I think there surely must be, I don't know about it yet. And if it's leaked, don't tell me. I don't want to know. I actually think that... I'm fully convinced pretty much at this point that Pokemon is almost always better experienced without leaks. When you actually get to see these creatures in the intended way, in their full context. I meant to say at the beginning, my favorite Megas from Gen 6 are in no particular order: Pinsir, Gallade, Diancie, maybe Rayquaza. How does the S tier here compare to those? I think Phalanx is for sure one of my favorite Megas of all time right off the bat. The others in S tier, I'll need a little bit more time with them, but they might get there, and I honestly could see Starmie getting there. Starmie has been rocketing up the tier list in my head since I first saw it in-game. Overall, pretty solid group of new Megas. I think Game Freak did a good job. For all the criticism they get, some fair, some not, I think they still nail it most of the time with creature design. And while some of these Megas are kind of underwhelming to me, I think for the most part, this generation right here is no exception. It has been a lot of fun to see Mega Evolution come up again. The more Pokemon have Megas, the better. The biggest problem with Mega Evolution as a mechanic is that it's hard to scale to every single Pokemon, but having that unique transformation for every Pokemon is a lot more dynamic and interesting than the other super mechanics that are more easily scalable. So I don't know how much longer we'll be hanging out, how much longer we'll have Megas around in the games this time. The future of the series is all very murky to me right now, but amazing to get some new ones while we can, and looking forward to more, no question about it. Like and subscribe, let me know in the comments what your favorite of these new Megas are, whether Phalanx is your very favorite or something else.